It comes from Howard Schuman from Pittsburgh, Maine. And he asked, before the U.S. invasion of Iraq, you could have voted for the Levin Amendment, which required President Bush to report to Congress about the UN inspection before taking military action. Why did you vote against that amendment?
Well, Howard, that's an important question, and the reason is because although I believe strongly that we needed to put inspectors in, that was the underlying reason why I at least voted to give President Bush the authority, put those inspectors in, let them do their work, figure out what is there and what isn't there. And I have the greatest respect for my friend and colleague, Senator Levin. He's my chairman on the Senate Armed Services Committee. The way that amendment was drafted suggested that the United States would subordinate whatever our judgment might be going forward to the United Nations Security Council. I don't think that was a good precedent. Therefore, I voted against it. I did vote with Senator Byrd to limit the authority that was being given to President Bush to 1 year, and that also was not approved. I've said many times, if I had known then what I know now, I never would have given President Bush the authority. It was a sincere vote based on my assessment at the time and what I believed he would do with the authority he was given. He abused that authority. He misused that authority. I warned at the time it was not authority for a preemptive war. Nevertheless, he went ahead and waged one, which has led to the position we find ourselves in today. But I think now we have to look at how we go forward. There will be a great debate between us and the Republicans, because the Republicans are still committed to George Bush's policy. And some are more committed than others, with Senator McCain's recent comments. He's now accusing me of surrendering because I believe we should withdraw starting within 60 days of my becoming president. Well, that is a debate I welcome, because I think the Democrats have a much better grasp of the reality of the situation that we are confronting. And we have to continue to press that case. It will be important, however, that our nominee be able to present both a reasoned argument against continuing our presence in Iraq and the necessary credentials and gravitas for commander-in-chief. That has to cross that threshold in the mind of every American voter. The Republicans will try to put either one of us into the same box, that if we oppose this president's Iraq policy, somehow we cannot fully represent the interests of the United States, be commander-in-chief. I reject that out of hand, and I actually welcome that debate with whomever they nominate.
Senator, look, I want you to respond, Senator, but also in the context of what we've heard from General David Petraeus, that there has been some progress made lately. The number of U.S. casualties has gone down. There has been some stability in parts of Iraq where there was turmoil before, and that any overly quick withdrawal could undermine all of that, and all of that progress would be for naught. What do you say when you'll hear that argument?
I welcome the progress. This notion that Democrats don't want to see progress in Iraq is ridiculous. I have to hug mothers in rope lines during town hall meetings as they weep over their fallen sons and daughters. I want to get our troops home safely, and I want us as a country to have this mission completed honorably. But the notion that somehow we have succeeded as a consequence of the recent reductions in violence means that we have set the bar so low it's buried in the sand at this point. And I've said this before, we went from intolerable levels of violence and a dysfunctional government to spikes and horrific levels of violence in a dysfunctional government. And now 2 years later, we're back to intolerable levels of violence and a dysfunctional government. And in the meantime, we have spent billions of dollars, lost thousands of lives, thousands more have been maimed and injured as a consequence, and are going to have difficulty putting their lives back together again. So understand that this has undermined our security. In the meantime, Afghanistan has slid into more chaos than existed before we went into Iraq. I am happy to have that argument. I also think it is going to be important, though, for the Democrat, Senator Clinton mentioned the issue of gravitas and judgment. I think it is much easier for us to have the argument when we have a nominee who says, I always thought this was a bad idea. This was a bad strategy. It was not just a problem of execution. It was not just a problem of execution. I mean, they screwed up the execution of it in all sorts of ways. And I think even Senator McCain has acknowledged that. The question is, can we make an argument that this was a conceptually flawed mission from the start, and that we need better judgment when we decide to send our young men and women into war, that we are making absolutely certain that it is because there is an imminent threat, that American interests are going to be protected, that we have a plan to succeed and to exit, that we are going to train our troops properly and equip them properly and put them on proper rotations and treat them properly when they come home. And that is an argument that I think we are going to have an easier time making if they can't turn around and say, but hold on a second, you supported this. And that's part of the reason why I think that I would be the strongest nominee on this argument of national security.
All right, I'm going to let Senator Clinton respond, but Senator Clinton, you always say if you knew then what you know now, you wouldn't have voted like that. But why can't you just say right now that that vote was a mistake?
Well, Wolf, I think that if you look at what was going on at the time, and certainly I did an enormous amount of investigation and due diligence to try to determine what, if any, threat could flow from the history of Saddam Hussein being both an owner of and a seeker of weapons of mass destruction. The idea of putting inspectors back in, that was a credible idea. I believe in coercive diplomacy. I think that you try to figure out how to move bad actors in a direction that you prefer in order to avoid more dire consequences. And if you took it on the face of it, and if you took it on the basis of what we hoped would happen with the inspectors going in, that in and of itself was a policy that we've used before. We have used the threat of force to try to make somebody change their behavior. I think what no one could have fully appreciated is how obsessed this president was with this particular mission. And unfortunately, I and others who warned at the time, who said let the inspectors finish their work, do not wage a preemptive war, use diplomacy. We're just talking to a brick wall. But, it's clear that if I had been president, we would never have diverted our attention from Afghanistan. When I went to Afghanistan the first time and was met by a young soldier from New York in the 10th Mountain Division who told me that I was being welcomed to the forgotten front lines in the war against terror, that just struck me so forcefully that we have so many problems that we are going to have to untangle. And it will take everyone. It'll take a tremendous amount of effort. But the one thing I am convinced of is that if we go into our campaign against the Republicans with the idea that we are as strong as they are and we are better than they are on national security, that we can put together an effective strategy to go after the terrorists, because that is real, that is something that we cannot ignore at our peril, then we will be able to join the issues of the future. And I think that's what Americans are focused on. What are we going to do going forward? Because day after day, what I spend my time working on is trying to help pick up the pieces for families and for injured soldiers, trying to make sure that they get the help that they need, trying to give the resources that are required. We had to fight to get body armor. George Bush sent people to war without body armor. So we need a president who will be sensitive to the implications of the use of force and understand that force should be a last resort, not a first resort.
So what I hear you saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that you were naive in trusting President Bush?
No, that's not what you hear me say. Good try, Wolf. Good try.